Wolves ambush helpless bear cub, but its unexpected rescuer will leave you stunned. The Montana wilderness stretched endlessly beneath the gathering storm clouds, its vast expanse of pine and spruce swaying in the strengthening wind. In a sheltered den near the base of a massive Douglas fir, a young grizzly cub named Cody pressed closer to his mother Brianna's warm fur, watching lightning illuminate the darkening sky through the den's entrance. "Remember, my dear one," Brianna murmured, her British accent, a remnant of her early years in a Yorkshire wildlife sanctuary before being relocated to Montana, adding a gentle lilt to her words. "When thunder roars, stay indoors. But if you ever find yourself caught outside—" She paused, nuzzling her cub's ear. "What must you do?" "Find low ground away from trees," Cody recited dutifully, his own voice carrying just a hint of his mother's accent. "Look for a depression in the earth or a cave, but check for other animals first." He had heard these lessons countless times, but something in his mother's tone made him pay extra attention tonight. The storm's fury intensified as darkness fell. Thunder crashed overhead with deafening force, and rain began to pour in sheets. Brianna drew Cody closer, shielding him from the occasional gust that whipped through their den. But neither bear could have predicted what happened next. A massive lightning bolt struck the ancient fir above their den with an explosive crack. The ground shook as the tree's massive root system tore free of the earth, and Brianna's protective instincts took over. She shoved Cody toward the den's back exit, a narrow tunnel they dug for exactly such emergencies. "Run, Cody. Now!" she commanded, her voice barely audible above the storm's rage. Cody hesitated for just a moment, but his mother's urgent push got him moving. He scrambled through the tunnel as fast as his small body could manage, emerging into the rain-lashed forest beyond. Behind him, he heard the horrifying sound of timber splitting and earth giving way, followed by his mother's frightened roar. "Mama!" he cried out, trying to turn back, but the tunnel's entrance had already collapsed. "Keep going." Brianna's muffled voice came through the earth. "I'll find you, my darling. Remember everything I taught you." Heart-pounding, Cody forced himself to move away from the devastation. The storm's fury had transformed the familiar forest into an alien landscape of thrashing branches and deeper shadows. Rain pelted his fur, and wind threatened to knock him off his feet, but he pressed on, searching for shelter as his mother had taught him. Hours passed, and the storm gradually began to lose its strength. Cody found temporary refuge beneath a rocky overhang, shivering as he waited for dawn. He had never spent a night away from his mother before, and every unfamiliar sound made him jump. But Brianna's lessons echoed in his mind, keeping panic at bay. As the first gray light of dawn crept through the trees, Cody emerged from his shelter. The storm had left the forest changed. Fallen trees blocked familiar paths, and streams had swollen into torrents. He tried to retrace his steps, but nothing looked the same. "Mama!" he called out tentatively, then louder, "Mama!" Only the drip of water from saturated leaves answered him. Fighting down his fear, Cody remembered another of his mother's lessons. When lost, find high ground to get your bearings. He began climbing a nearby ridge, his wet fur heavy against his small frame. He was halfway up when he first caught their scent, wolves. His mother had warned him about them, especially about their pack leader, Travis. The American-born wolf had a reputation for being particularly clever and ruthless, teaching his pack sophisticated hunting techniques that made them the most feared predators in this part of the Rockies. Cody froze, trying to remember everything Brianna had taught him about wolves. Stay still, assess their position, look for escape routes. But he had hesitated too long. Dark shapes emerged from the underbrush, moving with fluid grace as they circled around him. Travis stepped forward, his gray fur touched with silver at the muzzle, his amber eyes calculating as they assessed the young bear. "Well, well," he drawled, his American accent a sharp contrast to Cody's British-influenced speech. "What do we have here? A little lost cub, all alone in the big bad woods?" I'm not alone," Cody tried to sound brave, but his voice quavered. "My mother is nearby." "Is she now?" Travis's tone dripped with false concern. "Strange, We've been tracking you for quite a while, and we haven't caught even a whiff of another bear." He took a step closer, his pack tightening the circle. "Want to try again, little one?" Cody's mind raced. He could try to run, but the wolves would easily catch him. He could fight, but he was hopelessly outnumbered. As Travis's pack moved in, their teeth bared in anticipatory grins, Cody did the only thing he could think of. He backed up against a boulder, raised himself to his full height, which wasn't very impressive, and tried to remember how his mother made her most intimidating roar. What came out was more of a squeaky growl, causing several of the wolves to laugh. Travis shook his head in mock disappointment. "Brave, but foolish. Don't worry, we'll make this quick." The wolf's words cut off abruptly as a thunderous roar shook the forest, a true roar, one that made Cody's attempt sound like a kitten's mew. A massive shape burst from the undergrowth, scattering the wolves like leaves in a wind. Travis barely managed to leap clear as enormous claws raked the ground where he had been standing. Cody stared in awe at his unexpected savior. The giant grizzly stood nearly 9 feet tall on his hind legs, his brown fur shot through with gray, battle scars visible beneath his thick coat. But it was his eyes that caught Cody's attention. Deep amber pools that held both fierce intelligence and something that might have been compassion. 6 wolves against 1 cub, the huge bear rumbled. His voice deep and resonant with a distinct American accent. "Hardly seems sporting, Travis." The wolf pack leader had regrouped with his companions, maintaining a safe distance. "This isn't your territory, Maverick," he snarled. "What happens here is none of your concern." "I make everything in these mountains my concern," Maverick replied calmly, "especially when I see cowards picking on the defenseless." He dropped to all fours, positioning himself between Cody and the wolves. "Now, you have 2 choices. Leave, or stay and learn exactly why even your grandfather's grandfather warned about challenging an old grizzly." For a moment, Travis seemed to consider fighting. But Maverick's reputation was well known in these parts, and even a pack of wolves thought twice about facing him. With a final snarl of frustration, Travis backed away. "This isn't over," he warned, before vanishing into the forest with his pack. Only when the wolves' scent had faded did Maverick turn to examine Cody. The young cub found himself trembling under that penetrating gaze. "Thank you, sir," he managed to squeak out, his British-tinged accent even more pronounced in his nervousness. "Humph," Maverick grunted. "British sanctuary bear, I'm guessing? Your mother wouldn't happen to be Brianna, would she?" Cody's eyes widened. "You know my mama?" "Know of her," Maverick corrected. "Word travels in these mountains. She's got quite a reputation. Smart bear, good mother. Which begs the question, what are you doing out here alone?" As Cody explained about the storm and the collapsed den, Maverick listened intently, occasionally nodding. When the cub finished his tale, the old grizzly was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother's alive," he finally said, making Cody's heart leap. "I can smell it in the wind. She's searching for you. But this forest's big, and the storm scattered all the familiar scents." He studied the young bear thoughtfully. "It could take days for her to find you, maybe longer. And you won't survive out here alone that long, not with Travis and his pack around." What should I do?" Cody asked, trying to keep his voice from trembling. Maverick sighed heavily, as if already regretting what he was about to say. "You'll come with me. I'll teach you what you need to know to survive until your mother finds you. But understand this, I'm not your new parent. I'm not here to coddle you. If you want to live through this, you'll have to learn, and learn quickly. Think you can handle that?" Cody straightened up, trying to look braver than he felt. "Yes, sir. I can handle it." "We'll see," Maverick rumbled. "First lesson starts now. Never say you can handle something until you know what it is. Now, follow me, and pay attention to everything I do. Your life may depend on it." The next several days were the most challenging of Cody's young life. Maverick was a demanding teacher, but his lessons were practical and thorough. He taught Cody how to fish in the swift mountain streams, showing him how to read the water's movement and strike at precisely the right moment. He demonstrated how to identify edible plants and roots, how to spot the signs of dangerous animals, and most importantly, how to avoid unnecessary confrontations. Fighting should always be your last resort, Maverick explained as they dug for tubers one afternoon. It doesn't matter how big or strong you are. Every fight carries risk, and only fools go looking for trouble. But you fought the wolves, Cody pointed out. No, I prevented a fight, Maverick corrected. There's a difference. I showed strength to avoid violence, not to cause it. Remember that. The old grizzly also taught Cody how to use his other senses more effectively. Your nose and ears are just as important as your eyes, he instructed. Learn to trust them all equally. This lesson proved particularly valuable when, on their fourth day together, Cody's newly trained nose caught a familiar scent on the wind. Wolves, he whispered to Maverick, who nodded approvingly. Good. How many? Cody tested the air carefully. More than before. Maybe twice as many? 11, Maverick confirmed grimly. Travis has called in reinforcements from the northern pack. I wondered if he might try something like this. He turned to Cody. Time for your final exam, little one. What do we do? Cody's first instinct was to run, but he forced himself to think it through as Maverick had taught him. We need to choose our ground, he said slowly. Get our backs against something solid, but make sure we have an escape route. And we need to make them come to us, not chase after them. Very good, Maverick praised. And then? Show strength to avoid violence, Cody recited. Make them think fighting us isn't worth the risk. Excellent. Now, let's put theory into practice. They positioned themselves near a cliff face, one that had a narrow crevice leading to a higher ledge. An escape route if absolutely necessary, but their scent would be hidden from the wolves until they got close. They didn't have to wait long. Travis emerged from the forest first, flanked by his original pack members and several larger wolves Cody hadn't seen before. The pack leader's eyes gleamed with anticipated triumph. 2 bears are hardly better odds than 1, Travis called out, especially when one is just a cub and the other is well past his prime. Interesting theory, Maverick replied calmly. Care to test it? Travis bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. With pleasure. He turned to his pack. Take the old one first. The cub will be easy enough to deal with afterward. The wolves began to spread out, trying to flank the bears. But before they could complete their maneuver, Cody did something unexpected. He laughed. The sound was so out of place that several wolves actually stopped in confusion. Even Travis cocked his head, momentarily thrown off balance. Something funny, cub? The wolf leader growled. Just remembering something Maverick taught me, Cody replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite his racing heart. About how only fools go looking for trouble, and about how real predators don't need to hunt in packs of 11 to take down one old bear and a cub. He forced himself to meet Travis's eyes. Makes me wonder who the prey really is here. The words had their intended effect. Several of the newer wolves exchanged uncertain glances. They had been told this would be an easy kill, but the bear's confidence was making them doubt. And doubt, as Maverick had taught Cody, was a predator's worst enemy. It's a bluff, Travis snarled, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice now. Maybe, Maverick rumbled. Want to risk your pack finding out? Because I guarantee, even if you win, you'll lose at least half your numbers. Still think it's worth it? The standoff stretched for several tense heartbeats. Then one of the northern wolves backed away, followed by another. Travis whirled on them, snapping in fury, but the damage was done. The pack's unified front had crumbled. This isn't over, Travis snarled, but the threat sounded hollow now. Actually, it is, Maverick replied. Because next time, we won't be so willing to talk first. Spread the word, Travis. This cub is under my protection until his mother returns. Anyone who threatens him answers to me. Understood? The wolf leader's only response was a frustrated growl before he slunk away, his depleted pack following behind him. Only when they were well and truly gone did Cody let out the breath he'd been holding. I can't believe that worked, he gasped. It worked because you understood the most important lesson of all, Maverick said. True strength isn't about size or ferocity, it's about wisdom. You used your brain instead of your claws, and that's what kept you alive. Before Cody could respond, a new scent caught his attention, one that made his heart leap with joy. Moments later, a familiar shape burst from the undergrowth. Cody! Brianna cried out, rushing to embrace her cub. "Oh, my darling, I've been searching everywhere." "Mama." Cody buried his face in her fur, breathing in her comforting scent. When he finally pulled back, he saw she had some new scratches and was favoring one paw, but was otherwise unharmed. "How did you escape the den?" "Dug my way out through the back," she replied, still holding him close. "It took time, and then the storm had washed away your scent." "Oh, I was so worried." She looked up at Maverick, who had remained quietly watching their reunion. "Thank you for protecting him. I am forever in your debt." "No debt," Maverick said gruffly. "He's a good cub. Smart, too. You've taught him well. I just filled in some gaps." "Will I see you again?" Cody asked, surprising himself with how much he hoped the answer would be yes. Maverick was quiet for a moment, then gave what might have been a smile. "These are my mountains, little one. I go where I please. If you're ever in trouble again, just remember what I taught you. And who knows, I might be around to see how well you remember your lessons." As Cody and Brianna made their way back to their territory, they would need to find a new den, but that was a challenge for another day. The young cub found himself changed in ways he couldn't quite explain. He was still the same bear on the outside, but inside, he felt stronger, more confident, not because he had learned to fight, but because he had learned when not to, and more importantly, he had learned that sometimes the most unexpected teachers could provide the most valuable lessons. That night, safe in a temporary shelter with his mother, Cody dreamed of standing tall beside Maverick, both of them watching over the mountain forests as guardians rather than mere survivors. And somewhere in the darkness, a gruff old grizzly kept watch, his presence a silent guardian of the wilderness and all its inhabitants. The seasons turned, and Cody grew stronger under the combined wisdom of both his mother and his memories of Maverick's teachings. Brianna noticed the changes in her son. The way he moved with more confidence through the forest, how he assessed situations before acting, and most importantly, how he seemed to understand that true strength came from wisdom rather than mere power. They established a new den higher up the mountain, where the ground was more stable and the view allowed them to spot potential threats from afar. Cody often found himself scanning the forests below, hoping to catch a glimpse of his former mentor. Though Maverick remained elusive, his influence continued to shape the young bear's development. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted down from the aspens, Cody and his mother encountered something unexpected. A young wolf cub, barely old enough to walk, trapped in a tangle of fallen branches near a stream. The cub's frightened whimpers drew their attention, but it was the familiar scent that made Cody pause. "It's one of Travis's pack," he whispered to his mother, who had already picked up the scent herself. Brianna's expression was concerned. "The pack must be nearby. We should leave before—" "Wait," Cody interrupted, something in Maverick's lessons stirring in his memory. "Remember what you always taught me about doing what's right, even when it's hard, and what Maverick said about true strength." His mother studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "What do you suggest?" Cody approached the trapped wolf cub carefully, speaking in soft, soothing tones. "It's all right, little one. We're here to help." The cub's eyes went wide with fear at the sight of the bears, but something in Cody's gentle manner seemed to calm it slightly. Working together, mother and son carefully removed the branches until the wolf cub was free. It had barely scrambled to its feet when Travis burst from the undergrowth, teeth bared, but he pulled up short at the scene before him. The wolf leader's expression shifted from rage to confusion as he processed what he was seeing. His youngest pup, unharmed, with the very bears he had once tried to destroy standing protective guard over it. "Papa!" the wolf cub yipped, running to Travis. "The bears helped me. I was stuck and scared and they got me out." Travis looked from his pup to Cody and Brianna, his usual aggressive certainty replaced by something more complex. "You helped my son?" "It was the right thing to do," Cody replied simply, echoing words both his mother and Maverick had taught him. "In these mountains, we all face enough challenges without making unnecessary enemies." The wolf leader was quiet for a long moment, then dipped his head in what might have been the barest acknowledgement of respect. Perhaps we got off on the wrong paw." His voice was gruff, but the hostility had drained from it. "Thank you for helping my boy." As Travis led his pup away, Brianna nuzzled her son proudly. "You've grown wise beyond your years, my darling." Maverick would be proud. Indeed, he would be, came a familiar rumbling voice from behind them. They turned to find the old grizzly emerging from the shadows of the forest, his expression warm despite his gruff demeanor. "Though I suspect he already is." "Maverick!" Cody exclaimed joyfully, rushing to greet his old mentor. "You saw?" "I see more than most realize," the old bear replied with a slight smile. "Been keeping an eye on you from time to time. You've taken the lessons to heart, not just the ones about survival, but the more important ones about what it means to be truly strong." As they shared stories and caught up, Cody realized something profound. The forest that had once seemed so frightening and hostile had become home in the truest sense, not just because he knew how to survive in it, but because he had learned to be part of its complex web of relationships. The love of his mother, the wisdom of Maverick, and even the newfound respect of former enemies. All of it had shaped him into something more than just a survivor. That evening, as the sun painted the mountain peaks in shades of gold and purple, 3 bears made their way through the forest together. To any observer, they might have seemed an odd family. The British-accented mother, the battle-scarred old guardian, and the young bear who had somehow brought them all together. But in their quiet companionship was a deeper truth about the nature of family, strength, and the unexpected ways that wisdom passes from one generation to the next. High above, an eagle circled the peaks, its cry echoing across the valleys. In the growing darkness, a wolf's howl rose to meet it. Not a challenge this time, but something closer to harmony. And in that moment, under the vast Montana sky, the forest itself seemed to breathe a sigh of contentment, as if acknowledging that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting, but from finding the courage to choose a different path.